Mrs. Levinson doesn't get back for another week, and I honestly don't know if I can handle it.
You're gonna have to assert some dominance over it all.
Dominance? I mean, I don't think I can do that.
You're submissive.
I am not submissive.
Really?
Oh my god, you're so right. Lesbian is way better than straight.
Well, so are you ready?
Are you okay?
You should knock first.
What's that?
This second scene shifts the film's emotional register while remaining aligned with its broader project of examining women's self-discovery and relational truth, situating Christiana and Ember within a collegiate setting that functions as both a site of freedom and a laboratory of identity, where experimentation is socially permitted yet emotionally fraught. And the scene's tone, while outwardly playful and casual, conceals a deeper inquiry into how young women negotiate desire, trust, and vulnerability at a moment in life when labels feel provisional and futures remain open. And by framing their interaction as experimentation, the film immediately invokes a cultural script often applied to women's same-gender relationships, one that can trivialize or dismiss them as temporary, exploratory, or unserious, even as the emotional stakes for those involved are anything but. Christiana and Ember's dialogue, filled with laughter, comparison, and mutual reassurance, reflects a shared attempt to articulate difference between what they have been taught to expect from intimacy and what they are discovering through their connection with each other. And the film is careful to translate these moments not into spectacle, but into a study of recognition, where each woman sees in the other a mirror for her own curiosity, uncertainty, and longing. And this mirroring is central to lesbian and queer women's experiences, particularly in early adulthood, when attraction often emerges through friendship, humor, and shared critique of heteronormative expectations, rather than through dramatic declarations. The scene's emphasis on conversation, negotiation, and pacing underscores an ethic of care that resists dominant portrayals of youthful sexuality as reckless or impulsive, instead presenting intimacy as something that unfolds through listening and consent, through checking in and adjusting. And this approach aligns with queer feminist frameworks that prioritize mutuality and emotional presence. Over performance, Christiana's initial confidence, expressed through her playful commentary and willingness to guide the interaction, contrasts with Ember's moments of hesitation, yet the film resists assigning fixed roles of leader and follower, allowing these positions to shift fluidly as each woman responds to the other's comfort and curiosity. And this fluidity reflects a broader queer rejection of rigid binaries, suggesting that intimacy is co-created rather than directed. Ember's pauses and questions are not framed as weakness but as attentiveness, signaling a desire to remain grounded in the moment rather than rushing toward an outcome. And this attentiveness resonates with many queer women who have learned to move carefully within intimate spaces, aware of the social scrutiny that can accompany women's closeness and the internalized fear of misreading signals. The scene's humor, including moments of exaggerated comparison and shared laughter, functions as both bonding mechanism and protective strategy, allowing the characters to navigate vulnerability without becoming overwhelmed. And humor has long played this role in queer communities, serving as a way to deflect stigma while forging connection. Beneath this levity, however, the film invites viewers to notice the seriousness with which Christiana and Ember approach each other's feelings, demonstrating an awareness that even exploratory intimacy carries emotional weight. And this awareness challenges cultural tendencies to dismiss young women's relationships as inconsequential or fleeting. The collegiate setting amplifies these themes, as universities are often imagined as spaces of liberation where experimentation is encouraged, yet they also remain sites of intense regulation, where women's bodies and relationships are surveilled through social norms, gossip, and institutional policies. And the film subtly acknowledges this tension by situating the scene in a private space carved out from a larger, watchful environment. For lesbian and queer viewers, the scene may evoke memories of early experiences of same-gender attraction that were framed as phases or curiosities, experiences that nonetheless left lasting imprints on self-understanding, and the film honors these memories by treating Christiana and Ember's connection with sincerity rather than irony. The dialogue's emphasis on difference from prior experiences is not presented as a rejection of others, but as a process of comparison through which the characters begin to articulate what feels authentic to them. And this articulation is a crucial step in queer self-recognition, as desire often becomes legible through contrast rather than through immediate certainty. The film's refusal to sensationalize this process is particularly significant, given the cultural history of fetishizing young women's same-gender interactions for external consumption. And by keeping the focus on the women's perspectives, the scene reclaims their experience as belonging to them rather than to an imagined audience. Christiana's eagerness is balanced by her responsiveness to Ember's comfort level, illustrating an ethic of care that complicates stereotypes of experimentation as careless. And this balance models a form of intimacy grounded in respect, one that many queer women recognize as foundational to healthy relationships. Ember's gradual relaxation, marked by her willingness to continue while maintaining the right to pause, reflects the process of building trust. And the film treats this trust as an achievement rather than a given, acknowledging the courage required to be emotionally present in a culture that often trivializes or polices women's desire. The scene also speaks to broader themes of embodiment and agency, as both characters navigate their feelings within bodies that have been subject to social messaging about propriety, desirability, and risk. And by centering their agency, the film resists narratives that frame young women as passive recipients of experience. For women more broadly, regardless of sexual orientation, the scene's exploration of negotiation, pacing, and mutual reassurance may resonate as a reflection of how intimacy is often learned through trial and error, particularly in contexts where clear models are lacking, and the film validates this learning process as meaningful rather than embarrassing. The cultural discomfort with women's pleasure and connection is addressed indirectly through the scene's insistence on normalcy, presenting Christiana and Ember's interaction as neither shocking nor extraordinary. And this normalization is itself a political act in a media landscape that oscillates between erasure and exaggeration. By emphasizing communication and emotional presence, the film aligns with contemporary queer discourse that critiques performative sexuality and advocates for authenticity, suggesting that what matters is not novelty but resonance. The scene's pacing, marked by moments of anticipation and pause, mirrors the internal rhythms of self-discovery, where excitement coexists with caution. And this mirroring invites viewers to reflect on their own journeys toward understanding desire. Symbolically, Christiana and Ember represent two facets of queer youth, one more outwardly assured, the other more tentative, yet both equally engaged in the process of becoming. And their interaction illustrates how queer communities often function as spaces of mutual learning, where individuals support each other's growth without demanding certainty. The absence of external judgment within the scene creates a temporary sanctuary, allowing the characters to explore without immediate consequence, and this sanctuary highlights what is at stake when such spaces are denied in real life, where fear of exposure can curtail exploration. The film's choice to include this scene alongside others featuring women at different life stages underscores its commitment to portraying lesbian experience as diverse and evolving, not confined to a single narrative arc. And Christiana and Ember's youth offers a counterpoint to other relationships in the film, illustrating how questions of power, confidence, and recognition manifest differently across contexts. The scene also invites reflection on the language used to describe women's relationships, as terms like experimenting can both open possibilities and limit seriousness. And the film subtly critiques this language by demonstrating the depth of attention and care present even in moments labeled as casual. For queer women who have had their early experiences dismissed or minimized, this portrayal offers validation. Acknowledging that exploration can be formative and emotionally significant regardless of its duration, the film's restrained aesthetic choices reinforce this message, avoiding dramatic cues or exaggerated reactions, and instead trusting the quiet dynamics between the characters to convey meaning. As the scene concludes without definitive labels or outcomes, it preserves the openness that characterizes early self-discovery, resisting the urge to resolve uncertainty prematurely. And this openness reflects a queer ethic that values process over destination. Ultimately, the scene contributes to the film's broader argument that women's relationships with each other, whether tentative or assured, deserve to be treated with seriousness and care, that desire can be exploratory without being frivolous, and that becoming visible to oneself is often a collaborative act, shaped through connection, conversation, and mutual recognition in a world that still struggles to grant women's love for women the dignity it warrants.